mixture of male and female, a mixture of young and old. We were keen that we would have both urban and rural voices around the table. We didn't want it to be dominated by any one disease group, but we did think maybe somebody from the disabilities, living with a disability, and somebody, one or two people perhaps living with a chronic illness, is again representative of the patients that would come into the GP surgery. And we were also conscious that there's a lot of new Irish, non-Irish nationals, so we were keen people from maybe the Polish community or other community groups in Ireland. So we created our group from people living in Galway City and County. So this was our first group meeting in February 2016, and we started out with a group of 10 people. And yes, we had a mix of young and old, of people meeting all the criteria mentioned on the previous slide. But very quickly, I also realised that everybody brings so much life experience to the table that wasn't mentioned in our profiles or that we didn't set out with. And there's cross themes. So while we had a Polish lady, have a Polish lady in our group, she's also a mother of young children, she's also a female adult. So everybody is drawing on many different parts of their life experience to contribute and to help the researchers with their work. So what have we done to date? Again, we have met a number of times over the course of the year, and some of the activities we've done have been fairly predictable. So starting with, for example, giving feedback on the language of a letter of invite to take part in a study, advice, potential participants taking part, how would you contact participants taking part in a drug trial for people with mild cognitive impairment. So what's the right way to communicate? Your first phone call, what do you say? Do you talk to people in presence? And for example, an interesting bit of conversation in that very area, we were discussing whether a GP would make the call to one of their patients that has mild cognitive impairments. And the group around the table said, well, if my GP rings me, I think it's my death cert on the way. You know, and it was really interesting to see, to hear the different perceptions of what to a GP might seem like a fairly routine task to get the patient's perspective on it. We had a researcher who's doing some work on trying to understand why people with long-term conditions either do take or don't take the medications they're supposed to, that are prescribed for them. So she came in and talked to the group about what questions would we ask people to gather the information that would help unravel this particular issue. And then the group had a fabulous session where we asked the group what do they think should be included in a research grant. This was the PPI Ignite grant application that was referenced already. So we did a flexible brainstorming session, and this was interesting in that the group at this stage had almost a year's experience under their belt, and it was astounding the depth of knowledge, I suppose, and the growth in terms of understanding the research world from the group around the table to make a really insightful and meaningful contribution to that. So then we said, well, what are we going to do for this conference? How is our group going to contribute to the conference? So we had a discussion around the table, and I suppose I have with the researcher's hat on, I was thinking who'll stand up here and talk, what will be on the PowerPoint presentations. But from that conversation, suddenly the idea of Dennis said, well, why don't we do a song, was put on the table. And we kind of explored that, and I can't say that we all immediately said, yes, you know, absolutely, definitely, you know, this is right. And in fact, interestingly, from around the table, one person said, well, let's go with it, but, you know, if when we hear it, we don't think it's okay, is there a get out clause? So this came from around the table, which was great. So from there, we did a brainstorming session, a flexible brainstorming session. It came together a separate day and came up with the ideas for the songs, and I scribbled busily. And towards the end of the session, I was saying to Dennis, have we got enough input there? We were looking at the themes we wanted the song to encapsulate. And Dennis said, yeah, I think I have enough to do. And he said, well, actually, I have a few lines written here, you know, will I read them to you? And by the end of our 2-hour brainstorming, Dennis had crafted almost entirely the song that he's now about to sing for you. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce singer-songwriter Dennis Mokler, member of our PPI group.
Thanks Adele. As Adele was saying, we all put the ideas together, and I just strung it together in the song. So I think it represents what we do and how we feel about what we do. So. We've got something to offer. We have experience. We need to be involved. We can't leave it up to chance. It's all about collaboration. The benefits are clear. PPI is good for all. The time for change is here. We all sit down together, share our knowledge pool. Our children have a future. It's up to me and you. Compassion is the key to help us understand. What's good for you is good for me. We all can lend a hand. Public patient involvement, that's the way to go. The patient is part of the answer. Let everybody know. Don't leave us in the wilderness. Don't shut us out in the cold. We have much to offer. PPI is the way to go. We come from different places, different walks of life. We'd like to see a change in the world, to put a few things right. We see the world of research needs a helping hand. We want every voice to be heard, every child, every woman, every man. Public patient involvement, that's the way to go. The patient is part of the answer. Let everybody know. Don't leave us in the wilderness. Don't shut us out in the cold. We have much to offer. PPI is the way to go. Public patient involvement, that's the way to go. The patient is part of the answer. Let everybody know. Don't leave us in the wilderness. Don't shut us out in the cold. We have much to offer. PPI is the way to go. Thanks very much.
How do you follow that? That hits the heart. Thank you. That was. Can we have a second round of applause? That was brilliant. Thanks for that. That was an innovative and creative contribution that represents a lot of hard work. I'm sure you'll agree, and I think there's a very clear message, and that's what today is all about all being part of the solution. So thank you so much for that. We are really stuck for time, so we're going to sacrifice the questions at the end of each session and preserve them till the very end, if that's okay. So I'd like to thank all the members of the group for sitting up here and facing the crowd together. It's been great to have you here today, so we might bring you back up at the end for questions and answers at the end. Thanks a million.